Right, hello and welcome to this tutorial. This is a very quick tutorial to show how you could possibly bring in your characters into Unreal Engine, and for this matter I would actually want to have a look to see whether or not I'm recording, and it seems like I am. Okay, this tutorial assumes that you have already created the required animations and a minimum of a few animations being the idle, walk, jump start, jump loop, and jump end has been created. The very first thing I'm going to do is to go to the content browser, right click, new folder, and give a folder for my character. I'm going to call this teapot because it's a teapot. I'll go into the teapot folder and I will create nothing. I will go to import and I will go ahead and choose my FBX file of the actual teapot. This it's got no animations, it's just an FBX exported from 3ds Max or Maya, and it contains no animation. It's just a bone structure with skins, and that's it. I'm going to open that. The first thing I want to make sure is import skeletal and mesh are both checked. This should say none and I should say import. And then I will create another folder and I will name this animations, that is. In animations, I will go and click on import and I will select everything except the initial or the actual model of the teapot. So these are my animations that I have, and I'm going to press open, and then it will ask me, do you want to import mesh? I say no, I've already imported mesh. And it says, what skeleton do you want to link this to? I will say the teapot, the main skeleton that we brought in just a few seconds ago. And I'm going to click on import all, and it will go ahead and it will import all of my animations in here, and then I can go back to my teapot folder here. What I need is a character blueprint. So I'm going to go to the blueprint class and say character, and I'm going to call this blueprint underscore char underscore t in my case, blueprint character teapot. And I'm going to open it and it says no character, it's empty. Who's your character? So I'm going to click on mesh and I'm going to go into static meshes and I'm going to choose teapot 01. This is the initial skeleton mesh that we brought in, the very first thing we imported. I'm going to say this guy, and clearly he should not be floating. I should probably go to my left side view or something and bring him down. Make sure when you export your characters, you've exported them as positive X, meaning that they are facing X. If they're not, then you would have to make sure that over here when you bring him in, you get him to face the direction of this arrow. In this case, the teapot is already facing that direction, so I don't need to worry about anything. Right, so let's compile this and let's actually put these next to each other. What happens if I play the game? I play as this character. I don't want to play as this character, so I want to escape and I want to delete him. He should not be there. If I play the game, I still play as this character. That means my game mode is choosing to load that character as a default character. So let's go ahead and go into the third person blueprint class and the third person game mode. Inside the game mode, in default pawn class, it says third person character. I'm going to say no, blueprint character T, the new blueprint that I just made a few minutes ago. I'm going to close that and I'm going to play the game, and it seems like I see absolutely nothing. Technically I see a lot. The reason that I see this, actually, if I was to play this from here and if I was to press F8, you can see that I'm playing as a teapot, but the teapot I see nothing, and the reason for that is because I don't have a camera. You can just, well, you could, but you shouldn't just put a camera in here. You would need a spring arm inside the component of this teapot, and then you would want to add a camera. Make sure to link the camera, click and drag it to the spring arm, and the camera should jump at the back. If it doesn't, move it yourself. If I press compile and play now, I can see the I can see the teapot. Whatever key I press, nothing happens, it doesn't move or anything. That's because in the event graph we have absolutely no logic. So I'm going to get rid of all of this, and I'm going to go ahead and show you this in edit, project settings. We have inputs, and under input we have action mappings and axis mappings. Under axis mapping we have move forward, which controls W and S, W being 1, S being -1, and we also have move right, which is A and D, -1 and 1, which is exactly what we need. So remember these names, we are looking for move forward and move right. So let's go look for those. Move forward, we want the event, not the value. Move right, we want the event, not the value. And then what we want to do is go ahead and say add movement input, and we want to duplicate that. We want two of those. Control W as a shortcut. White goes in white, green goes into green, white goes in white, green goes into green. What goes into yellow? get rotation control, and from that break rotator, and from that, from yaw, make sure you go from yaw, make rotation. But we went from yaw, it's going to roll, that's not what we want yaw to yaw, and then we want to get forward vector as well as right vector. Forward goes into forward, right goes into right. If I was to press play, I can now move forward, backwards, left and right, but if I move my mouse, absolutely nothing happens. The reason for that is I need to add, again, if you look into under here, it says input, it says action, axis mapping, we have look up, no, these are the right, sorry, turn, mouse X, and look up, which is mouse Y. So let's look for turn and look up. Turn, it's up here, we want the axis event, not the value, and look up, event, if you like. And then we need a yaw controller, add controller yaw, and we need a pitch controller, add controller pitch input. White into white, green into green, white into white, green into green, and compile. And now I can, with my mouse, I can look around. Actually, this is a lie. I just tricked you guys for some reason. It should be the other way around. Turn is for yaw, and look up is for pitch. My bad. Compile it. That feels a little bit more natural now. Now I cannot look up at the moment. The reason for that is the spring arm needs to use pawn control rotation. If I compile that and play that, now I can move around as well. And if you wanted to, you don't have to. You can go into class defaults and you can check. What can you check? You can check on no, actually, spring arm. Use pawn rotation. Oh, actually, that's fine. What you could do is you could try use controller raw rotation, uncheck that, and see what results you get with it. It's completely up to you. It all depends on what sort of effect you want to achieve. I'll like to leave it on, I think. Yeah, that looks better. And that's it. So we're moving, but we have no animation. We're not walking or anything. So that's it for the blueprint up for now. So going back to the teapot character, what we need is to create a animation blend space 1D of the teapot, and I'm going to call this blend space. This is going to be the blend space between our idle, walk, and run. In this case, I don't have run. Axis label is going to be speed, and the axis range is going to be from 0 to 375. And make sure you click on apply parameter changes. A lot of people miss that. So idle goes at 0. Walk goes at 93.3. If I did have a run, it would go all the way up to here at 375, but I don't. So we just have to deal with this for now. Okay, put that next to that. Excellent. So now what we need is a animation blueprint to govern all of this. So we're going to go to animation, and we are going to say animation blueprint, and it says from which skeleton. I'm going to say teapot here. Okay, and we are going to go ahead and name this anim underscore bp underscore t for teapot. You can name it anything you want. Open it up, and we get this wonderful thing. When you see this, we're going to right click, and we are going to search for new state machine, which gets connected to that. Now we're going to go inside of the state machine, and we are going to bring in that blend space that we made earlier from the idle and the walk, and make sure that gets connected to that. Now for jumping, what we want to do is drag from this, say add state, drag from this, say add state, drag from this. Okay, don't do that. It's easier if you just drag from it, state, name it, jump start, drag from it, add state, jump loop, drag from it, add state, jump end, drag from it to there. What goes into jump start? Well, start, jump start goes into jump start. And going back to state machine, what goes into jump loop? Loop goes into jump loop. Going back into new state machine, what goes into jump end? Jump end goes in there. Going back to new state machine. Now, when should we go from blend space into jump start? This guy tells us when. We are going to promote this to a variable, and we are going to call this in air. Like, are you in air? Or we could literally type in, are you in the air, my friend? Let's do that. Let's call it that. And let's not call it that, because it will be a little bit misleading for you guys later. So let's call this I'm in the air, or I'm in the air. No question mark. I'm in the air. Okay. Anyways, but the value of this, whether it's true or false, we will control this later on. So I'm going to go into jump start. We already have that. Actually, I'm not going to go into jump start. I am going to go and decide when I'm going to move from jump start into jump end. The blueprint of this is going to be time remaining. It's very important for you to know how to spell time remaining ratio, and we are going to say equal or less than 0.5. You can try different values and see what you can get. Back to state machine. Over here, we are going to see and ask, do you remember that I'm in the air that we created earlier? I'm going to drag that into here, and I'm going to get it, drag from it, and say not exaggeration mark. That goes in there. The reason I'm really rushing through this is because I expect you guys to have taken notes from this in class and you know what you're doing. So this is just as a secondary reminder. And back to new state machine. Over here, again, we are going to get time remaining, learn how to spell, and equals or less than 0.5 left. Put that in there. There we go. Now, there's another thing we need to have in mind, which is if I go to new state machine, into blend space, we have a speed that I'm going to promote into a variable. This is what we name speed into the blend space. And I am going to name this speed. Now let's go make sense. On event begin, well, actually, this actually runs on tick. So we're going to check and to see whether we are valid, or actually I could search for is valid. And if it is, the blueprint goes in there. And if it is, then we're going to do a few things. Now remember that speed and in air thing that we got. So let's bring speed and let's bring in, bring speed and say set it, and in the air set it. So how are we going to set these? What's the information that we're going to put in there? Inside the speed is going to be, try not to move that. Just drag from that, get velocity. And from that, vector length goes into there. And falling exists in get movement component and ask, is it falling? That goes in there. Compile this. Now, if I play the game, nothing will happen because we haven't gone into the blueprint of the character where this thing was, where we created the mesh and the spring arm and the camera. We are going to go ahead and select the mesh, and we are going to say animation mode, animation blueprint, use anim blueprint teapot, the one that we just created. So compile that and play that. And now we should, if we see ourselves play, we should see a walking animation and things of that nature. So now I don't have jump actually, because inside of my blueprint where this guy is into the event graph, I need to go ahead. If I show you the project settings under input, it says action mappings and it says jump. Let's go look for jump action events. And what should it do when that happens? It should jump. And there you go. And if I press space, it will jump, and my animations are actually all fully loaded or exported correctly. But there you go, that's how you bring in your characters and play the animations. I hope you really enjoyed this video tutorial. If you didn't understand what I did, please feel free to watch this for another 200 million times. However, you were expected to take notes in class, so good luck with your projects. How do I stop this? Stop.